Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. Well, Warhammer Days just happened, and yeah, some really lovely reveals, I think. You know, it's really good to see. I've been talking about this a lot, but like, the support for sub games is pretty good, and this particular one, Warcry, we're seeing in front of you here, is pretty nice. I'm really liking the artwork on the front cover for this Red Harvest thing. This is obviously for anyone that's not old enough to know why some old guy on the internet might like some old hobbyist might like this artwork. It's I guess evoking the inspiration from an earlier age of tabletop games and board games, namely Hero Quest and other 80s style games. This type of art, this Conan-like figure here, versing the Spiderman here, the way they've rendered the flesh and everything like that is extremely 80s. And anyone that's old enough like me to remember that will know of these things. And definitely even this pose, this is almost identical to where the barbarian figure was in maybe not, no, I think the Hero Quest one, he was in the middle, but yeah, there was many board games that had a figure like this in this type of pose, and just great, right? So yeah, I'm really happy to be covering this. So for today, we're going to be looking at Warcry, what's coming for this Red Harvest, and the Spider-Man and Conan's, and then at the end we'll have a little bit of an honorary note for my favorite Chaos God. Nurgle's coming out in December. We're getting a new Battletome for AOS, and we'll take a look at the Sorcerer that they've revealed for that. And obviously, as another side note, Codexes for Gene Stealer Cults and Custodies are also coming, but we won't look at that here, but you can definitely go on the site and take a look at those things. But yeah, I thought for today we'd just take a look at this because these I think are probably the most interesting, at least for me. So yeah, let's have a look and see. So we've got Warhammer Day 2021, Slaughter echoes across the 8 points in Warcry Red Harvest. Yeah, pretty cool. Oh, and also as a side note, they did do some new reveals for Blood Bowl as well. There's a Dungeon Bowl, which is pretty cool, and obviously the Underworld stuff. They've got an ogre with a bunch of cool little pets that he comes with, which is really cool. But yeah, we won't look at that here. So let's come down and have a look. Yeah, so here's the box. So yeah, once again, really great. I'm glad this is on the front cover. This is very classic 80s stuff, and you know who this is appealing to. So the fact that I've got a smile on my face while I'm saying this, is an obvious clue. That's definitely the crowd that's going to be getting into this. And in fact, all my mates are that I know are all sort of getting back into this and doing Warcry and stuff. So that's cool, right? So yeah, this is a nice touch. I think those types of things are definitely a win. Reinvigorating some of those classic ideas and using new aesthetics and new designers that have a modern touch to give it new life is always a good thing. That's what this hobby is about. It's about tapping into a childlike part of your nature and enjoying that, right? You don't want to, always spend life in the adult world. It can be very dull and tedious, and so having these little escapes is really nice, right? That's what we all want. So I think that's a good touch. So let's come down and take a look what's in the box. So we've got the standard board, and now we've got some new terrain. This new terrain is actually pretty interesting. I'm really liking where that's going. I think that's it could be really cool for like AOS and other things too. I think that some of this terrain here could be very useful, even for 40k as well, right? Like we've got some these sort of, I don't know, almost like oil wells or that sort of thing going on here. Everything here is actually really usable for most of their other game systems. So this could be a box that people end up buying just solely for the terrain. Yeah, I think that's a really cool thing. But anyway, we'll come down a little bit further and take a look at these models because that's really what we're here for. And look at this. This is great. So these spider guys are awesome. I'm probably going to collect these. These are just super cool. I love the idea of them. That they're wearing. I guess they've, I don't know, taxidermied a bunch of spider heads and they use them as masks. I'm not quite sure, but they're great. I love everything about these. We already talked about this one, so I won't go into too much detail. But I love the aesthetics. I love the combination of materials. I like the implied material here. All of this, that they're obviously taking from I guess subterranean creatures and so on, or chaotic touched creatures, and just turning into their clothes, which is what they would do. Most of these Chaos Waste dwellers would be using everything around them to live and feed off and so on, and wear clothes, right? So you've got all of that going on here, and it's really cool. I love everything about it. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, so and some great poses as well, right? Like the sculptor or sculptors that did these are really getting into the dynamism of them, right? So we're getting a little bit of this spider-like idea. So they're running, they're leaping, their arms are out. We've got the addition of the little spider legs to help imply that fanning out, like we see in the leader. That's repeated across all these models, which is really good. That's a very important element if you're going to be sculpting or doing a design. You want to have repeating elements. That's an important feature, especially for something like this where it's got to be a faction or an army or whatever. You want to have some repeatable designs in there, or design elements. So yeah, everything here is looking really good. I like the weapon choices. They should be really dynamic to play. I'm sure you're going to get some interesting rules for some of these weapons, I would guess. We've got the double blades here. We've got these hooks. Even this, I love this. They're using the actual spider limb as kind of like a gauntlet, that sort of thing. That's always great. They've got tons of nice little elements all over them, and I could see like quite a few different color schemes for this. I mean, they've chosen a really great one, but there's a lot of nice color combinations you could do for something like this. All of these, spiders are all kinds of colors, so you could do some really interesting choices here in combination with the cloth and so on. So I think that's another benefit of these, is that they've got some good starting points, a good canvas to work from, right? So you can really go to town. All good so far. And then this is great. I love we've got in like that sort of, I guess, Mordor orc thing going on with these sort of back headdress things that you would see in Lord of the Rings almost, but here we're getting a sort of an Age of Sigmar version, right? And you're getting this sort of spider webbing going on, which is a great feature as well. So they've repeated these elements quite a few times, and I think that's great. You're getting little variations, these little hook elements and so on, and whatever this sort of, I guess this must be the spider's silk, I would imagine. They're making their weapons and clothes from it, I would imagine. That must be what that is. Well, not really silk, is it? It's I guess they're webbing or whatever. They're using that as for rope and so on. Let's take a look and see. Yeah, and then we got these sort of almost spider web type nets and all that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, it's all good, right? I don't know what else to say other than like I think they've really nailed the idea of these, and I'd love to see more of this. I think that's one of those aspects to the lore and to the world of chaos and so on in the Warhammer world that really hasn't really been like deeply explored and found all those interesting characters. Like that's what I'm hoping for Kill Team as well, is that they do some of that, because you have in the stories, the old stories and so on, people going in and out of the Eye of Terror and all that sort of thing back in the earlier phase of the lore, and they would be trading between planets and so on, rogue like sort of Chaos Touch rogue traders and so on, that they'd be going in and getting affected by all of that, and you'd have all these really interesting middle grounds of chaos corruption. It's not just always the sort of the end point of the Chaos Space Marine. You've got all these like human levels of interaction with chaos and what that produces. It can be so interesting, and most of the time it's only in the lore. You never see it, and so to have a game that's dedicated to chaos and in a chaos land seems like a great idea. You should be able to really pull out some really interesting sculpts from this. So I'm hoping they continue it and it gets supported and they do more of this, because the sky is the limit. I mean, chaos is anything, so they can literally design anything and it will be cool. Just let the sculptor go wild, and as long as it fits in more or less to the design shapes and aesthetic of the Warhammer world, then they can get away with it. And I hope that they do that. So that's pretty cool. So we've seen all this, and I think that's just hitting the nail on the head, as I said. And then we've got the Conan guys. Now these are, I think, Slaughterborn is what they're called, I think, or something. Is it? I think. I don't know. Anyway, what they're called really doesn't matter. They're Chaos Worshippers, and we can see that they're, possibly also Crom Worshippers as well. And these are great. I would definitely see many AOS players using these for Marauders. they're a great base to build off of, convert off of, create your own kind of war bands and so on from this. This is your classic undivided sort of look, or even cornate, sort of look here. You're getting a lot of nice features. It's just classic stuff, and the poses are nice. Like even some of these look like, I guess, these are the female ones, I think. Yeah, and that's cool. They're going for like a muscled version. I'm pretty sure that is. They're going for that muscled look, which is cool. It's very almost brutally unnerving. The way that they've sort of sculpted these features, to be quite in your face. If this is a female, which I think it is, a lot of the femininity has been taken out, and you've got this sort of brutality there, which I think is great. That's a good combination. It's similar to that of the female vampire that they've released for this. It's still got some elements of feminine. How would you say that? Feminine qualities, right? But it's combined with that bestial, that otherworldly elements, which make it a predator, a dangerous thing, which in a vampire. And here we're seeing a kind of similar combination. I think it looks a little bit strange here. I think all that severeness is mostly due to the paint job. I don't think that's the sculpt. So we're seeing some deeper shadows that probably shouldn't be there, and that's, I think, what's throwing this off a little bit and making it look a bit strange. But I don't actually think that's actually in the sculpt. I think it's a lot softer. So I think depending on how you paint it, this would come up very differently. But I do like the idea of it. I think that's great that they're exploring that, because that's another element they haven't really looked at. Even this is a really interesting character, right? We've got like some really, really crazy stuff going on here, and I really dig it. I think that's the sort of thing, just breaking out of the mold and just doing these interesting choices, and very odd sort of ideas, the eyeless face, and very sort of, this feels like it could come out of a Conan movie, from the 80s. That's all that stuff, and I think that's great. I think they definitely should dig into that, Robert E. Howard kind of idea, these sort of like barbarian types. There's some really interesting things you can do just to vary up the ideas. Here I love all of this, the Wolverine claws, that's all great, very Mad Max in the face. That's awesome. And then we've got, obviously, got to have some big axes and so on, and that's awesome. This, again, another female, I think. And they haven't shied away from trying to do some not normal, I guess, anatomy types for a female character. We don't often see a bodybuilder's shape for a female in miniatures. It's rare. So I think this is great. I'm glad that the designers have been allowed to go and actually explore some of that, because there's some really interesting developments that can come from this sort of thing. It can spawn a whole new range, if they just nail down, the look, and they end up, it'll influence things like, Sisters of Battle and so on in 40K and all of that, this type of thing. And I think that's great. I'm glad that they're looking at different anatomies and different styles and trying to work something out that's interesting. So, I'm sure this is a lot softer outside of this paint job. I don't think it's going to look exactly like this. It feels like there's a bit too much angularity on it, but I'm pretty sure that's just the paint job. So yeah, but otherwise, really cool. Like that's nice. And this is the classic Conan right here, right? Here we have Conan in the flesh in the Warhammer world, and I'm fine with it. I don't know what else thinks, but that's cool with me. This is all from an 80s time, the initial, I guess, impetus for this company and where it began is all from that inspiration, all the, Dungeons and Dragons and all that stuff. And to have this in the game is fine by me. That's really cool. And this is a nice one as well. I like this one. This is cool. This is a nice idea too. A little bit softer in the face. That's probably a better executed female figure there. That's pretty good. So yeah, all in all, great bunch of miniatures for this starter box. So I think, let's have a look and see. Oh, we've got the terrain, so we should take a look at that before I waffle on too long. So yeah, this is going to be very cool for a lot of things. So I can see many hobbyists out there using this for different terrain, for different game systems. This definitely would be great for a chaos themed board for 40K or for AOS. That there's so much here that you could use. I think everything about that is really cool. I love all these pieces here, like these sort of wall sections. They could be made into L's for 40K. You could do a lot of different things, a lot of scatter terrain and so on, just to spice up the board. you know, so much good stuff here. And obviously for Warcry, this looks pretty dynamic. If you coupled that with the previous one, you could get some really interesting little boards going. So I think that's really cool. So let's see if we can look at when this is going to be releasing. So Red Harvest is going to be a bloody good time for all involved. This is just one part. Yep, okay. I don't know whether it actually tells us when it's going to be releasing, but I would assume pretty soon. If we have a look maybe at the top, maybe it'll tell us. We'll come up to the top here and we'll have a look. Let's see. Yeah, so it's got to be within by Christmas, I would imagine, because the Nurgle Battletome is due for December, I think. So I would imagine this is somewhere close to that. So I guess as the weeks go on, if they actually show that, I'll obviously cover it again and we can take a look. But I'm sure it's coming very soon, if not within a few weeks. Who knows? Maybe it'll come in November. But I would imagine this is a Christmas release, considering it's a box set. They usually do something like that for Christmas. So I would imagine that's when that's coming. But all in all, really, really fun. So let's look at the last, I guess, little side note. Well, not side note really, because Papa Nurgle is the main event, right? Yeah, let's take a look at what they did for this Battletome and see this Sorcerer. So yeah, they're going to be releasing a new Battletome for the Maggotkin, and I think that's really cool. I love Nurgle; it's one of my favorite Chaos God, if you haven't already guessed. And yeah, I think this is a cool model. You know, like it's an interesting choice for the cover as well. They've chosen this Sorcerer that they're releasing. I think that's an interesting choice. I like this pose, and we're going to take a look at the model that they've got for us. So, you know, this is a cool idea. Like, I think that I prefer the actual artwork of this guy rather than the pose here. I feel like I would have loved to have seen the dynamic version of this. So have these, if we take a look, I kind of wish this was the sculpt. So I would have loved to have seen all of this crazy stuff coming out of him and him, you know, conjuring it into being, and then have this at the back there. For a lot of reasons, that would have meant that you could have cut this off and used this this scythe more easily for another model. You know, this arm's out so that it's more convertible and it's more dynamic. I wish this had been the design direction, but this artwork may not have existed when they actually did the sculpt, so it's hard to tell. But yeah, I do like the idea of this model for a few reasons, even in this pose. Mainly because there's some elements here that can be used for other models. So even though this is great for a Sorcerer to replace, I guess, the Finecast one that was from before. You know, I love this lower body. I can easily see, you know, cutting this out and using this lower body here for other things. We've got the fly legs as well, which is really interesting. So there's a lot of elements on this that I actually really enjoy, and I think could be used for a lot of other Nurgle models. So especially 40k Blightlord Terminators, you know, a lot of these elements would look great on a Blightlord Terminator. You know, there's a lot going on here that I like. I just wish the pose was a bit more dynamic and he was doing something a bit more fun. He's sort of like, you know, smell my stink finger kind of thing going on there, which is, you know, that's very classic Nurgle. But it'd be nice if it was doing more of what the artwork was doing. But again, it may have been sculpted before that artwork was actually produced. So, but yeah, it's still really fun. It's nice to get new Nurgle. I'm sure there'll be a few other things shown, so we're not going to see just this. But I'm pretty sure that the Nurgle book should be pretty strong for AOS. They have all of the right elements to make the Nurgle faction, you know, a contender. And even now with their old book, they are doing quite well in AOS and you know, and punching above their weight. And I think that that's great. So hopefully that continues and they stay relatively competitive, because that would be really nice. I mean, you know, I love Nurgle, so it's good. Yeah, so on that note, I think we'll finish up. So yeah, just again, they did release images for obviously Blood Bowl. You're getting the Dungeon Bowl set, the Underworld's new warband, which is that ogre with the little pets, which is really cool. And also then 40k is seeing Custodes and Genestealer Cults, which I'm sure will be released by the end of the year. So that's really, really awesome. So we'll see what more comes for Nurgle. I'll definitely cover it, but I hope you've enjoyed this. Sorry I waffled on a little bit, but I wanted to get through all this because it's pretty fun. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. Please hit the like button, subscribe button if you have, and I guess I'll catch you on the next one.